welcome to the one and only Team Tszyu.
Hey guys, how are we doing? Welcome to Talking Boxing. It is Monday, was it March 3rd, 2025, and I think I just said Talking Boxing, didn't I? I get so used to saying Walking Boxing every day that I hope I got that right. So welcome to everybody. What a weekend of boxing, and I'm sure we'll have plenty of things to discuss. We had the Liam Wilson show in was in Brisbane, wasn't it? I think it was, wasn't it? Yeah, it was Brisbane, I think. Hang on, let me have a look. I think it was definitely Brisbane. I never even really took any notice about where it was. Let's have a look. Yes, I'm sure everyone out there is saying Lynden. It was in Brisbane, all right? So relax. Yes, it was at South Bank Piazza, South Brisbane. So a really, really good card. Liam Wilson getting the chocolates over Yusuf Dib. Really, really good undercard as well. We might go through that as well. Yesterday, plenty of action. The Controversies, Gervonta Davis and Lamont Roach. Again, I've addressed a lot of this in Walking Boxing this morning, but I'm sure there'll be a lot of people with differing views. I see there's a few in the chat already, so we'll go through it. Let us know. Look, if you're new to the show, this is your show. It's called Talking Boxing for a reason. We just talk about anything that you want to discuss. I just host it. It's a bit of a lull, of course. I'll bring up a few different things, but overall, it's your show. So put a comment, a question, whatever it might be, in the chat. And as I said, let's talk some boxing. We'll start with Asbot up the top there. Again, I'm not sure of the order of this, but we'll start with Asbot. What do you got there, mate? Tank's episode was bizarre, but still thought he won. I understand Team Roach's frustration, though. Run it back. Well, that's probably the easiest thing, Asbot. And this morning I just said, look, I wouldn't have complained at all if Lamont Roach won. I sort of semi-agree with a lot of people out there saying he won, and no dramas. The problem is very much the B side, so he's always going to be up against it. Did he do enough to win? Yeah, possibly. But I don't think it was as conclusive as it needed to be for him to get the decision on one hand, but also for it to be called a robbery on the other. I've said this numerous times on this show, that just because a fighter loses a close decision, it doesn't mean it's a robbery. So if Lamont Roach had a won yesterday, I would have said, yeah, okay, I agree with that. If Gervonta Davis had a won the fight, I would have said, yeah, no, okay, I can see that. I actually had it a draw. Having said that, I had to watch it on YouTube last night. And you know what it's like if you go and watch a fight within a few hours after it happening. You can't get a proper version of it. So you're looking at all these pirated stuff, and they zoom in and zoom out, and they skip bits, all this sort of stuff. That's what I had to watch last night, because I had to do the review this morning. That's what I had. So I might go back and watch it again when all the dust has settled and they put it up properly on YouTube with proper PBC cameras and all that sort of stuff, and maybe look at it. But from what I saw, it was a really, really close fight. I thought both guys really were so evenly matched. Lamont Roach looked a lot bigger than what I thought he would. I was surprised that he actually stood with Gervonta Davis, and I think he was surprised as well. I think Davis was really surprised as well at the speed of the counters of Lamont Roach. And, yeah, look, he's a lot better fighter than what I thought he was. Now, maybe he just fought one of those fights. Who knows? But I was really, really impressed by him. And I don't know whether it was a matter of him really fighting well or Tank Davis maybe fighting not so well. I suppose we'll see if they'll run it back. But surprisingly enough, Tank Davis said after the fight that he probably won't fight Lamont Roach next, which is a really strange thing to say. I would have thought that with everything going on, the first thing he should have said, look, it might not have been in our plans, but I think the right thing to do, especially being a draw, would have been even the same if he had got a close decision. But the fact it was a draw, I was surprised that he said, no, I don't have plans to fight Lamont Roach yet. Now, that was straight after the fight. So maybe in the weeks or whatever going ahead, there might be some pushback as far as from the sanctioning bodies. The WBA might say, well, we're going to elevate Lamont Roach to our #1 challenger or keep him there. Where is he at the moment, by the way? Before yesterday, he wasn't even ranked, was he? Because of the 130-pound champion. So now, has he given up that belt? I don't think he has he? So he, yes, all right. So he's still the champion. All right. So not ranked at 135, which is obviously because he's the champion at 130. So who knows? Maybe what might happen. And the #1 rating is vacant, by the way. So maybe what he will do, maybe the WBA will say to him, look, if you give up that 130-pound belt, we will put you in at the #1 ranking, and Tank must defend you against you next. Maybe. But, yeah, I think he owes everyone, and more importantly, Lamont Roach, a rematch there, Asbot. But it was a good fight, a really, really good fight. All right, Drew, how are you there? What do we got? An immediate rematch should take place for Tank versus Roach. This is one moment when the business and BS of boxing needs to take place for a strong vote of common sense. Well, common sense is not so common in boxing, Drew. I think you should know that. I just think it comes down to whether, Tank wants to, and as I just said, maybe the WBA forces the hand. But as we know, rankings don't really mean anything. If you're a star and you're one of the A-listers of the sport, then you can pretty much do what you want, let's face it. But I'm with you there as far as the business and the BS of boxing. Yeah, I'm with you. I agree it should take place next, but the odds are it won't. And I don't agree with it, but I've just been around boxing for far too long to know the way it works, and I'd say Tank will do what he wants. We'll see. Tony, what do you got there? John Manu. Remember that name. He's going to be a champion. Massive respect. Yeah, well, I think I said last week, Tony, that don't sleep on John Manu. He's a very, very good young fighter. Actually, he's not so young anymore, is he? But very, very good fighter. I think I mentioned last week I did promote him 2 or 3 times, and I was very, very confident that he'd beat Jalen Tate. Now, having said that, I didn't expect him to do what he did and just totally wipe Jalen Tate out. What was it, 3 rounds it was? So 2.5 rounds, whatever it was. So really, really good performer. Look, I think it's a little bit of a stretch, as I said this morning, to call out George Kambosos. But hey, if you don't put yourself out there, these things don't come about. And he did actually say today that if the Jordan fight falls over, that John Manu is prepared to jump in the ring with George Kambosos. Now, I think George would have found that quite amusing, but hey, you never know. I think the odds are they would have maybe someone on standby on the undercard of that fight ready to go. Let me just have a look at that undercard. Where are we? I'll go back. I had the schedule up just before. Where are we? March 22nd, wasn't it? So the undercard, well, at the moment, there it is. All right, so actually, yeah, I don't think we've actually had a good look at that. So on that undercard, so George and Jordan, Sky Nicholson, Tiara Brown, which will be a ripper. Shanika Johnson, Nina Hughes will be another ripper. Iman Kadaev against Derval Palacio. Well, I sort of feel a bit for Palacio because Kadaev is going all the way to the top, if you ask me. And then there's Jaden Buan, Fidelis Layla. No idea who they are. Terramona Jr. He'll no doubt get a first or second round knocked out of somebody. So, yeah, not really anyone on that undercard, is there, that could fight him? So, look, you never know. But I'm with you there, John. Very, very good fighter, and I hope he gets his shot. I hope he gets a big one. The only other thing that might happen, though, Tony, that I don't necessarily like is that John Manu might become one of those fighters that becomes avoided because he's obviously dangerous. Probably won't bring a lot to the table as far as that risk versus reward scenario. I think a lot of those fighters, that's why I was surprised that Jalen Tate actually fought him. You probably will see a lot of those guys who are on the cusp or around the mark or whatever, looking at John Manu and saying, well, shit, not going to be a big payday. He can fight, obviously, and, yeah, we don't need the smoke, as they say. Now, on that too, where did I see it? Now, with John, there was a fight. Now, he fought George Kambosos' stablemate, or he's the American guy. When was it? I'll go to his record just quickly. I know I'm getting a little bit off track here. Now, he fought, it was on the Kambosos-Haney 2 card. And it was, that must have been it there, was it? Adrian Sosa. So at the time, he was 12-0. And it was a swing bout, so it was after the fight. So I remember going down with my good mate Ronnie. I hope Ronnie Pickett. I'm not sure whether he's watching tonight. If you are, g'day Ronnie. He's up there in Queensland. He fought him as a swing bout on that. And Ronnie and I, we stayed behind, went down and sat right basically in his corner. So ringside in his corner. This is Adrian Sosa, and they were not happy that John Manu pretty much towed him up. He won a 6-round decision. What's Adrian Sosa done since then? Nothing. So much so that in nearly 18 months, he hasn't fought since. So that's what he did. And before that, he was fighting quite regularly, I think. Anyway, but yeah, definitely one of those boogeymen, I reckon, Tony. And I think those guys that are, as I said, around the mark are not going to want to have a bar of John Manu. But you never know. All it takes is to get that opportunity. And who knows? It could be a Liam Wilson. It could be a Yusuf Dib. Could be George Kambosos. Who knows? All right, let's move on. Tom's dad, Naz. How are you there, Naz? Evening all. Love Tank's new initiative. Mid-round timeouts. I wonder what would have happened if it was Roach who did that. No, it's a good point, Naz. I can tell you what would have happened. There would have been an 8 count, no doubt. Look, I did again say in walking boxing that I think Steve Willis looked at it, and I don't think he sort of knew what was happening either. I just think his first instinct, I think it was pretty obvious that he hadn't been hit, even though there was a slight little jab before that. But I think it was blatantly obvious that it wasn't a punch. So I think more than anything, it was, Tank, what are you doing, mate? Are you okay? What's wrong? And he said, well, I've got something in my eye. He said, well, mate, don't be silly. You can't do that. You can't take a knee. Just, okay, wipe your gloves and let's go. Now, that's the common sense approach. But what should have happened by the rules is that any fighter that goes down and touches his knee on the canvas deliberately must get an 8 count. But I did say, and my view is that do the judges have to score at a 10-8 round? This is the other side of the corner. It again goes back to what I discussed last week about the 10-point must system, and maybe it needs to be changed and give the judges a lot more flexibility with what they do as far as awarding the points or deducting points, whatever it might have been. So maybe the rules could have been he must get an 8 count, but the judges could have said, okay, well, he gets an 8 count, but doesn't mean I've got to take a point off. I don't know the exact rules, but I'm pretty sure in boxing, I know it varies from sanctioning body to sanctioning body and state to state and country to country, but I'm pretty sure that the judges do not have to count a knockdown as a 10-8 round. I think it's just a guide. They don't. I think they do have to take a point if the referee says to take a point, but I'm pretty sure they don't have to score at a knockdown. Now here's one for you. I've used this example a few times. Ebony Bridges in her pro debut fought a young Thai girl, and she pretty much won the round, I thought, but then she got dropped towards the end of the round with a big right hand. And all 3 judges scored the round to Ebony Bridges, even though she'd been knocked down. So they used their discretion because she was so dominant for the rest of the round. They decided not to give it a 10-8 round. They gave it to Ebony Bridges. So this is where the flexibility's got to come in. But I think we need transparency. I think what we need is a little bit of a clarification of all this sort of stuff. Because what happens is shows like this, other YouTubers out there, and everyone that's got a voice out there, which is literally everyone these days, do they have, I think they need clarification of exactly where they stand. But as I said, I've just got a feeling the judges don't have to score the round 10-8. And if that's the case, well, give him the 8 count. And I think this is a little bit of the confusion as well, because I think a lot of people are thinking or saying, well, if he had taken the knee, it would have been an automatic 10-8 round and Lamont Roach wins the fight. Not necessarily the case. Let's see what comes out. I wouldn't mind a little bit more of an explanation from the WBA in this respect. But I just think Steve Willis looked at it and knew nothing had happened and just wanted to make sure Tank was okay. Took that common sense approach and said, hey, mate, you can't be doing that. You know, do we want the common sense approach or do we want it straight down the line? This is the thing. And this is not football or soccer or anything like that, where sometimes they have a few grey areas and the common sense rule can come in. This is boxing where we've got to be pretty strict about it. So, look, it's opened up a can of worms, hasn't it? But by the rule of the thumb, by all accounts, it should have been at least a standing 8 count. Anyway. All right, still with Asbot. Is Shakur ever going to have a proper fight? Like, ever? Why not Tank, who's responsible for that not happening? Well, they can fight plenty of other people, Asbot. That's why they have rankings. I mean, Shakur Stevenson is a WBC lightweight champion. Now, last week, of course, it wasn't his decision to fight Padley. But, hey, he's got Andy Cruz as his number 1 challenger. He's got Tevin Farmer as number 2 challenger, although he's fighting Zepeda, isn't he, for the interim belt. Ricardo Nunez, Sam Noakes. There's plenty of guys he could fight, Asbot. He chooses not to. Same as Tank. WBA lightweight champion. Now, he could have fought Floyd Schofield, of course. No, he couldn't because he was going to fight Shakur. But he could have fought Andy Cruz. He could have fought Maxi Hughes. What the hell is Maxi Hughes doing at number 4 in the rankings? That is bizarre. Who's the hell is that? Fradamil Macao. Never heard of him. Edwin De Los Santos. I heard of him, of course. Seen him fight many times. So you get what I'm saying. They can... Maybe they're not proper fights, but they're the top-ranked fighters, Asbot. So he's free to do what he wants to do, as is Tank. It is their decision and their prerogative why they just refuse to fight often and they just don't fight proper. Well, there you go. You said yourself, proper fight. Proper contenders. It's the whole thing's just a mess at the moment, Asbot. They've got fighters just doing whatever they please. Mutzi says he thought Roach did enough. Yeah, that's fine, mate. And as I said, if Roach had got the decision, I wouldn't have disputed it at all. It was that close. But there has to be a winner. Yesterday, of course, there wasn't because it was a draw. I just think a draw was a good result. I really do. I thought the draw was, barring all the grey area when it comes to the so-called knockdown or count or whatever the hell it was, I thought it was a very, very even fight. Really surprised at how well Roach went, and I think a draw was a acceptable outcome for me. There's Eminem. How you going there, mate? Welcome to the show. 10 times profits. You picked the underdog Manu to beat Tate and he won easy. Thanks for the pick. No worries, mate. I did see your comment on YouTube. No problems at all there, mate. Yeah, well, I was pretty confident. I was. And I'll say it again. I was really surprised at Jalen Tate coming back on the comeback trial, why he would have picked John Manu to come up against. Surely they would have seen John and realised he was very dangerous. I just want to have a quick look at Jalen Tate's record. So he's 16-1 at the moment. So he did have a comeback fight, but it was it was against Yang Cheng Chin, who was 12-8-2. So, and he went 8 rounds with him. Before that, he was upset by Ibrahim Bala. Again, a very, very risky fight. I just don't think they knew what they were in with Ibi, who's a very, very good fighter. Olympian from 2012, I think, so he can fight. Then he's jumped straight in, 4 or 5 months later against John. Just, not a great fight for him. Profits. And you're right, Tate, Manu won easy. And don't know what odds you got there, mate, but I'm glad it was a part of your multi anyway, mate. So, all right, Drew. If Tank beats Roach in a rematch, hopefully this scare might force him to start fighting some more meaningful legacy and financially strong fights towards the back end of his career. I don't think it will, Drew. I've just got this really bad feeling that this will be Tank. He will go through his career. Well, he reckons he's only got a couple of fights left, doesn't he? And he's out. And if that is true, and he chooses not to fight, well, whether he fights Roach or not is one thing, but if he chooses not to fight Shakur Stevenson, Lomachenko, maybe if he's still around, maybe as a petter, maybe he goes up. I don't know. Who else is at that weight? Not many, I don't think. Andy Cruz. I doubt he would risk it all against Andy Cruz, but potentially, you never know. But those fights around the mark at the moment, you've got Shakur Stevenson, William Zepeda, Keyshawn Davis, the obvious ones there, and maybe Lomachenko. There is 3 very, very good fighters who we would love to see him fight. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't fight any of them. And that is a real shame. Who knows, maybe it is a rematch with Roach, but then he might fight Maxi Hughes. That's the type of fighter he's just become. He might fight Maxi Hughes in a voluntary. Or if Schofield fights Shakur and Andy Cruz maybe gets a shot at the vacant IBF belt if Loma retires, then it could actually be Maxi Hughes as he's mandatory, if you can believe that. He's mandatory. And he'll happily say, well, I'm fighting my mandatories. It's Maxi Hughes. I think that's where we're at. And it really disappoints me because I just think he's such a very, I'm not going to say great because he's nowhere near proven that, but a very, very, very good fighter. And I just think he's going to be one of those fighters who's going to retire with a, what's his record? I'll just quickly type it in. He's had a few fights now, hasn't he? Gervonta Davis. Where is he? So he is 30 and 0, one draw. So I just got a feeling he might retire at 33 and 0, one draw, 30 knockouts, and just sail off into the night. We'll just wonder what could have been. And I feel sorry, or maybe I was going to say I feel sorry for him down the track. That he's not going to be, those great fighters who look back and go on talk shows or YouTube channels or whatever and discusses those legacy fights. I mean, we all love hearing from the likes of Sugar Ray Leonard and Thomas Hearns and Duran about all their fights. Unfortunately, you can't hear it from Marvin Hagler anymore. We hear about Oscar and Floyd and Manny and Cotto and all those guys. They all talk Hatton. They all talk about the fights they've had against each other. And really, who's Tank going to talk about? Ryan Garcia? Yeah, I don't know. It's a shame. It really is. But geez, wouldn't you think? And again, I don't think we will, because I really don't think he gives a shit what we think about him, to be honest, and how he's perceived. But how good would it be if he said, right, I've got 4 fights left. I want Shakur Stevenson. I want Keyshawn Davis. I want William Zepeda. And I want Andy Cruz. Then I'm going to retire. Maybe throw Roach in there as well. There's 5 fights for him. I just don't think we're going to see it, unfortunately. Eminem, Tate versus Tszyu sounds good. Tate, or are you talking about Manu? Well, they both lost, I suppose, so maybe they could fight each other. I don't think it really gets the blood flowing with that fight, Eminem, but it wouldn't be a bad one. Look, maybe, I was just going to say maybe it could be both of them coming off disappointing losses. There could be the make or break fight. The winner goes on, the loser retires. But I just think both have got so much to offer, especially Jalen Tate. He's a good young fighter. He's just maybe not as good as what a lot of people thought. I was going to say I was always the jury out, because I just wait until these guys fight live fighters before I rate them. And unfortunately, he's come up short against the 2 actually really good fighters he's fought in John Manu and Ibrahim Bella. That's the fight I would like to see at lightweight. I'm not sure whether Liam Wilson would want to fight Ibrahim Bella or John Manu. I think he's looking for the world title shot, which is why he's out there trying to poke George Kambosos with a stick as much as he can. But second best, I love Ibrahim Bella and John Manu. An all-Victorian fight, that would be a ripper. So if No Limit or Ace Boxing or whoever it is out there is making these matches are looking at, that is the fight to make. That is a worthy fight to have on these Fox. They No Limit on Fox, whatever they're called. So we will see. Because Bella has not been seen since that fight. Now, I want to just have a quick look. So Jalen Tate, where's Ibrahim Bella? So how old is he's only 23. He's got plenty of time. Plenty of time. Good young fight. He's had a couple of losses. Big deal. Doesn't mean anything. All right, so Ibrahim Bella, that was July last year. We haven't heard a peep from Ibrahim Bella since. So what's that? 7 months ago, 8 months ago. Let's hope we see him back soon. Too good just to be sitting on the shelf. All right, what do we got? We'll move on to Naz. Roach had the confidence to stand in the pocket with Tank. Would love to see Zepeda get the chance to do the same. I agree, mate. I think William Zepeda would be looking in that fight, absolutely licking his chops, the fact that Roach had that success against Tank in the pocket. And I was just surprised, Naz, that the ease in which Roach countered Tank. Now, I've got a feeling it was a little bit to do with Tank underestimating Roach, taking him easy. And if I had to give a prediction today, if they did fight again, I'm going to put my money on Tank to stop Roach. I just think you would see a Tank, and we've seen it when he switched on and in seek and destroy type of mode, very, very hard to go with him. He's a dynamic little fighter, and he is little. He's only about 5'3" or something. There's not much of him. But I would think if he comes in switched on, you'll see a totally different Roach. So, me personally, I'm not that stressed about the Lamont Roach rematch. I know a lot of people like you out there want to see it. I'm not that stressed. I would much rather see him fight the Zepedas or Davises, the Keyshawn Davises that is, or Stevensons or whoever. So, and Andy Cruz. But I am with you there, Naz. I was surprised that Roach had the confidence. Yeah, exactly. Again, I'm surprised that he had that success, but I don't think he gets away with it next time. All right, Mark. Thought Roach would be competitive, but not that much. Reminded me of Jones Jr. and Tava, or Mosley versus Forrest. Yeah, it's good, Mark. And look, we've seen this like littered throughout boxing history. I look back at, say, Julio Cesar Chavez and Frankie Randall. I see Greg Haugen beating Hector Camacho. Those type of fighters, and they get beat by the last people in the world you would expect them to lose to. Because, look, a lot of these guys have all these big fights, massive fights. Then they come up against a lesser light who's totally up for it. They're ready to go. This is their grand final or Super Bowl, whatever it is. And they come ready to go on their A game. And sometimes all the A side has to be is 5% off, and we can get the upsets. We've seen it there, like you said there with Tava over Jones Jr., Forrest over Mosley, Randall over Chavez, Haugen over Camacho. You come in, you're not quite switched on, the upsets happen. And that almost happened yesterday. I'm hoping that Davis learns from it, and he either gives Roach a rematch or learns from it and then fights one of these other A-graders as well. So, but I'm with you there, mate. It's yeah, I didn't expect him to be that competitive either. Drew, I worry that Tank has been financially and contractually pampered for far too long, leaving fight fans dissatisfied with career movements. Yeah, well, he's almost a forgotten man, Drew. It's almost like yesterday. I forgot the fight was even on, and I didn't really cover it in Walking Boxing for the week because there's so many other things to talk about. And I was like, well, I thought a couple of times, will I squeeze it in? And I thought, well, why? It's not really an anything fight. Now it turned out to be a very good fight, and it ended up being a pretty good card in the end too. But he's just that forgotten man, and he shouldn't be. He should be. Well, we should be talking about Tank Davis like we talk about it, maybe not quite as good, but the Inoues and Crawfords and Canelos and the Mayweathers that have just gone out of the sport, the Pacquiaos. Tank Davis should have filled the void of, say, a Pacquiao or a Mayweather. Maybe not a Mayweather, different types, but he should have filled the void of, say, a Pacquiao. Inouye seems to have slotted in there nicely, but he's a foreign fighter. Tank has so much going for him. American fighter, his style is fan-friendly, his personality creates headlines, and he can fight, more importantly. Very, very good fighter. He's just one of those fighters, probably like a Shakur Stevenson, who's just been forgotten about. People don't care about him anymore. I didn't really have anyone during the week last week. Normally, I get messages on that every day. People sending me articles or, have you seen this? Have you seen that? And what do you think of this? I didn't have one person last week say, hey, what do you think about the Tank fight? And why haven't you spoken about the Tank fight? I mean, I do 7 episodes a week, every day. I don't think I spoke about it once because there's far too much or many more interesting things to talk about. That's what he's become, and it shouldn't be that way. He should be, you look back in the day, I'm not saying he's as good as him, but he should have been in the bracket of, like him at the moment with Stevenson, maybe Keyshawn Davis, definitely Lomachenko, maybe throws a Petter in there. All those fighters, Andy Cruz coming through, that little group of fighters, that should be the new Pacquiao, Mayweather, De La Hoya, Cotto sort of scenario. Hatton, that should be that little group. Back in the day, Hagler, Hearns, Duran, Leonard, Benitez, these types of guys. We haven't seen any of these guys fight each other. Actually, have a quick look. Have any of them actually fought each other? Loma hasn't fought Davis, Stevenson, Zepeda, Davis or Cruz, obviously. Davis hasn't fought any of them. Zepeda, so none of those fighters have fought each other. We'll give Loma a bit of an out because he's on the end of his career. But if you count him in there, you've got definitely Cruz is on the peripheral coming through. So let's just put an asterisk beside him. But you got Loma, Davis, Stevenson, Zepeda, and Keyshawn Davis. And with Cruz coming through and Lomachenko on the way out. And none of those guys have fought each other once between them. And this is what's wrong with boxing these days. Now, I know it's changing to some extent with Turkey Al Sheikh. Hopefully he can bring an end to this madness. But where is the next group of superstars that all have the little series against each other? We just haven't seen it for a long, long time. So, and same as the heavyweights. Why haven't we seen a Tyson Fury Anthony Joshua fight? It is criminal that fight has never happened. That is the Tyson Holyfield of this era. That is the Tyson Spinks of that era. The Holmes Cooney, of that era. It never happened, and it is, as I said, criminal that it never happened. Maybe it will happen down the track, but by all accounts, Tyson Fury is very happy in retirement. So, anyway, but I'm with you there, Drew. What was your comment there? I went off on a little rant, forgot what you even said. You worry that Tank has been financially and contractually pampered. Well, he has, mate. Definitely early in his career, and I actually thought that once he left Floyd, that his whole outlook might change, and the reason he left Floyd was to actually, take some of those big fights, because I had a feeling that maybe Floyd Mayweather was just waiting for that perfect opportunity, and we all know that Floyd was notorious for that, waiting for that opportunity to get those guys at the right time, and maybe Tank said, "No, I don't want that. I want to fight these guys now, so I'm gone." With the express purpose of maybe joining a Turkey Al Sheikh and fighting these guys, but all he's done is pretty much gone sideways, if not backwards. With PBC, he's fought Frank Martin and Lamont Roach. Now, again, Lamont Roach was a lot better than we thought, but still not a big name in the scheme of things. So, I just think he's going to be one of those fighters, Drew. Sorry, guys, I've probably fallen behind a little bit here. Let's catch up a little bit. Shadow Boxer. How are you, Shadow Boxer? In the rematch, Roach should do a Tava and say, "Got any grease in your eye tonight, Tank?" I love that. That's awesome, Shadow Boxer. Well, the plot thickens. Now, I was going to talk about this tomorrow in Walking Boxing, but I'll sort of just leak it here a little bit. The actual stylist, this is Greasegate, by the way. We had Egggate last week. This week it's Greasegate. All right, the stylist that did his hair has made a statement. Yes, that is correct. She has made a statement and said that, I think Tank said he got it done on the Thursday or Friday. It must have been the Thursday, so 2 days before the fight. I think she said she did it a day earlier on the Wednesday. And since then, he's done workouts. He's had the weigh-in. He's done all this sort of stuff. She said, "I didn't put much grease in his hair. He's talking shit." And it was actually 3 or 4 days before the fight, not 2 days like he said. So the plot thickens. So let's see what comes out. Look, end of the day, nothing's going to happen. The decision is the decision. But, 1 week it's about eggs. This week it's about grease. All right, Tony. I do like that, by the way, Shadow Boxer. I'd like him to actually say that. That would be pretty cool. All right, Tony says, Tank claims something from his hair burned his eye and he took a knee. Reminds me of Duran's excuse why he quit, as he ate a couple of hot steaks the night before he faced Ray Leonard. No mass. Well, I think what happened in the no mass fight, Tony, was he just got frustrated. Sugar Ray knew how to push his buttons and where to push his buttons. And he just gave up. And strangely, I would have thought Duran's career would have been over after that fight. These days it probably would be. He wouldn't be forgiven. But Duran was one of those just once-in-a-generation type of fighters. He was forgiven. And after that fight are the ones he had against Davey Moore and Iran Barkley, and totally redeemed himself. So, but I wasn't aware of that, though. Is that what he said? He ate a couple of hot steaks. I can't remember. I thought he said he had stomach cramps. Is that why he had stomach cramps? Was it? Who knows? But it took him a while to get over that fight. But to this day, one of the most beloved fighters of all time there, mate. But yeah, burned his eye. Come on, Tank. Although it's not like Tank to do that, though. That's the only other flip side I'll say. He did. I'm not. I know it sounds silly, but I'm not totally discarding what he's saying. I just think maybe he's put a bit of mayo on it in the end. Who knows? But anyway. All right, Drew. Any news on when and where of the when and where of Jai Patai's next fight, given that it looks likely that Zerto takes on Dordikos as a mandatory? I don't know, Drew. I was asking someone about that the other day. Now, at the moment, at Cruiserweight, now apparently he doesn't have to have his mandatory next, because he was going to fight Shinkara in his last fight and he pulled out and Niika stepped in. That did count as his mandatory. So technically he can fight anyone out there at the moment. Now, but there's been no word just yet, Drew. Who did I hear mention the other day? I'm just looking at the ratings at the moment. None of those really ring a bell. Was it Safar? Robin Safar? I can't remember. Anyway, but no, to answer your question, Drew, no, I haven't. Rumours, but nothing, just people guessing, mate, so it's not even worth bringing up. All right, Double G. Ronnie might be busy inflating his rubber ducky with that cyclone edging closer to Brisbane. Good point, Double G. I didn't even think of that. I spoke to him, was it a couple of days? No, when was it? It must have been Thursday or Friday I spoke to him. and they'd been out for a walk. Can you believe this? He's 83. Just went for a leisurely, 12K walk in the morning just to get the legs rolling over. 12 kilometres. And he said, it's not that far. Yes, it's far. Whether you're 23 or 53, mate, or 83, it's a long way. Hang on, I think we've got a super chat there. Who's that? Dennis Green, how are you there, mate? I'll get to you in one sec, mate. But, yeah, with that cyclone up there, yeah, not good, Double G. They are talking about cancelling the footy on Thursday night. We've got the Brisbane Lions and Geelong playing on Thursday night up there. Luckily, I think both teams have got the bye in round 3, so I think they're just going to delay it to that round. But the Gold Coast are also playing Essendon, I think, on the Saturday or Sunday as well. No mention of that being postponed. And the fact that it's only, how far is it from Brisbane to Gold Coast? About an hour, 50 minutes, 45, 50 minutes. No mention of that. So they must be pretty confident it's not going to hit. But Ronnie's on the Gold Coast, Double G. So hopefully the fact of not cancelling that Gold Coast and Essendon game shows that the Gold Coast might be spared. But, yeah, not good for everyone up there. They're expecting about a metre of rain. I think it works. Between 600, what's that? 60 mil, 600 mil, 60 centimetres and a metre of rain. So a lot of rain either way. Knee high, basically, a little bit higher. All right, what do you got there, Dennis? Thanks again for the $5, mate. Really appreciate it. Great call of Jason's fight last week, but it was bloody frustrating to listen to. Do you think he can get another crack at the top level? Good question, mate. Thanks very much for that as well. I did my best. Look, I think so. Look, there were a lot of people after the fight saying that he should give it away. I mean, it's a bit of a throwaway line to say give it away. I mean, this is a profession to these guys. Now, I'm all for fighters either voluntarily giving it away or the teams strongly encouraging them to give it away. I'm all for it if they're taking punishment and there's just no hope for them down the track and they're fighting just for the sake of fighting and end up licking windows, 20 years down the track. I don't want that. Look, Jason looked, for me, he looked in great condition. He looked, his jab was really good. I thought he was punching hard, probably not hard enough to really do some damage on Nasukawa. But look, I thought he looked in really good condition. I think, again, I said in my review, the thing with Jason, I've just got to be careful with the matchups. And the problem is, the guys that he's lost to are all super slick, fast on the feet, fast with their hands, good lateral movement, and he just struggles a little bit with those guys. So I understand at this stage of his career, he's just got to take the biggest fights he can get, and whether they're suited to him or not, he's just got to take them. So I've got no dramas with that. But for those that are saying you should give it away, I just don't see why you should give it away. I mean, geez, you're a long time retired. They are prize fighters. They are fighting for money. Now, if he had to come back to Australia and fight for $10,000 purses, well, I could strongly understand why he'd be like, well, why am I going to bother? But look, if you're still fighting for, I've got no idea what he gets paid, by the way, but if you're still fighting for, $100,000 plus paydays and you're not getting hurt, well, why should he retire? And I thought he looked good enough last week that he's got plenty left in the tank. The only thing is now that he hasn't got a promoter behind him like a Top Rank, it's whether he gets the opportunities and whether the Japanese thing sort of still is still in play and whether they want him back. But I mean, I look at the rankings at the moment, Dennis. Where is he? What is he? Bantamweight, isn't it? So where is it? 118. So Nishida, now he might get a shot at him. It doesn't look like he will, but you never know. I think he'd perform really, really well against Nishida. He's, again, another Japanese fighter. It's quick with his hands and feet, but geez, I would strongly back Jason in that fight. You've got Susumi and Vargas as the interim champion in the WBA. I think definitely a shot at beating both of those guys. Takai, well, he lost a close decision to him last time. Again, he gets frustrated by the hands and feet speed. And Nakatani is obviously the one that would be a big ass. But, geez, I think he's, apart from Nakatani, I'd give him a shot at beating any of those guys. I still think if he fought Tenshin Nasukawa again over 12 rounds, I think he's a great chance of beating him as well. I mean, it wasn't a one-sided fight. I know the judges' scorecard sort of reflected that to some extent, but I thought I had it not. What did I have it? 6 rounds to 4. All right, now I think the judges had it maybe 7-3, 8-2, maybe one of them. But I just thought Jason didn't look like he was jaded. Didn't look like he was over the hill. Didn't look like he was, showing the effects of his career. I just think he just needs to be matched properly. I really do. And to answer your question there, can he get another crack? Well, that remains to be seen. But can he compete at the top level? In my opinion, 100% he can. 100%. All right, back to the comments. Shadow Boxer. Not only should Tank have got an A count, he should have been disqualified once his coach was up on the apron. Yeah, that's another good call, Shadow Boxer. I've got a feeling, though, that when they say the ring apron, I'm pretty sure it's both feet up, standing on the ring apron. I've got a feeling from what I saw, he sort of put a knee or a foot or something up, leant in the ring and wiped Tank down. I don't know. But then has those rules changed? Because I remember, who was it? It might have been Meldrick Taylor and Julio Cesar Chavez. I'm pretty sure Lou Duva was on the ring apron, waving at Richard Steele to say that he's okay, let him go, or whatever he was saying, and he wasn't disqualified. So that was, 35 years ago, a long time, of course. So I don't know, but I'd have to clarify that, Shadow Boxer, whether it's a foot, whether it's a knee, whether it's whatever on the ring apron you get disqualified, I don't know. But I didn't see him actually physically get up and stand with both feet upright on the ring apron where the ropes were. Maybe I'll have to go back and watch it again. But I just thought he put a knee up, leant up, wiped his face, and then got back down. So I'm not sure the regulations with that. But as I said earlier, mate, with the A count, maybe he should have got the A count. That's fine. But I still don't think the judges had to score it a 10-8 round if indeed he got that count. All right. Eminem. Harbin in an exhibition in a few weeks. Wow. Okay. Who's he fighting, Eminem? Let me know. If it is the case, great to have him back. I'm a big fan of Isaac Harbin, and I would love to see him in there with Mikhailovich. I think that would be a ripper. I think we all thought we'd seen it all when the lead up with Harbin and Zarafa. Imagine what it would be with Mikhailovich. I think the fight would be secondary to the lead up. I think it would be awesome. Isaac did make a good point, though. Eminem, he did say, well, how do you get the ball rolling on a potential fight when one blocks the other? And apparently Mikhailovich has blocked Isaac Harbin. So, Andre, if you're watching, mate, unblock Isaac and let's get this thing cracking, mate. Let's get a bit of banter happening here. You can't have banter going one way, mate. And Mikhailovich, mate, it's a little bit ironic that you're probably the biggest, well, one of the biggest sort of, what's the word from gobbers off over there? Is that the word? One of the biggest yappers I've ever seen. I mean, the Janabek fight. Jeez, in the lead up to that, you said you were going to kill him. Well, let's get a little bit of that happening and unblock Isaac and let's see what you got. All right, Daniel, how are you, mate? Great to have you along. Magnificent night of boxing Saturday night up in Brisbane. This is a result of what can happen when promoters start working together. One of the better promotions telecast, keep them coming. 100% agree there, Daniel. I was thinking the same thing, and I actually mentioned it in my review as well. How good was it to have No Limit and, who was it? Ace Boxing. Mental blank there for a second. Linking or hooking up together and putting on a great show. I mean, Anzo DiCarlo with Ace Boxing's always done great shows. From as long as I've been following boxing here in Australia, which is a long, long time, and Ace Boxing have been around, he's always put on great nights of fights. No Limit have the resources to pay a little bit extra for those fights and a little bit of extra pull, all that sort of stuff. Of course, getting the shows on TV, not just on the peripheral channels, on actual Fox Sports. I think it was great, and I was really excited when they actually broke bread and got together. Well, that was vindicated on Saturday night because we had an awesome night of fights. And just on that event, just quickly going over all the fights. So, of course, we had Wilson and Dibb. What a fight that was. Tate and Manu. Well, it ended early, but early on it was a very, 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 very well-matched fight. You had Bowen and Shagalev, which is okay. Costello and Harrison was a ripper. Floyd Masson Namdi was a really good fight. Didn't see the other fights, but overall a great night of boxing. So hats off to Ace Boxing and No Limit, who put on a great show. All right, Drew, do you think referee Steve Willis will be reprimanded or has a lengthy suspension after completely dropping the ball in most people's eyes, but not everyone's eyes? Yeah, again, Drew, it depends on how you look at it. I didn't really have a problem with it. I just thought, again, I'll say it was a common sense approach to the situation by saying, hey, Tank, mate, you can't do that. Is it the referee's discretion, though? This is the other thing. A lot, like we see it in football and soccer, a lot of different sports where a lot of the rules are open to interpretation. Now, it can be good and bad for any sport or game or whatever it might be when it's open to interpretation. I know in Aussie rules, one of the main criticisms of the game is that so many rules are open to interpretation. They have a general rule, but the the umpire can sort of, have a little bit of leeway on certain things. Is it the same in boxing? Now, this is what's got to be clarified. If that does happen where he does take the knee, is it the referee's discretion that he must give him an 8 count? Or is it the referee's discretion that he is able to give an 8 count? These are all the things. Now, I just got a feeling a lot of people are just guessing at the moment. I'm going to look into the rules, and it's really hard because I think I know the rules, but so many things are different in different sanctioning bodies and states and countries and everything else. But is that the case? Was Steve Willis... was it his prerogative to call it or to give an 8 count, or was it he put a knee on the canvas, so he must have put an 8 count on Gervonta Davis? These are just the little things that we need to look at, because it's easy to say no, his knee touched the canvas, so it had to be an 8 count. But again, did Steve Willis have to give him an 8 count, or was he able to give him an 8 count if he wanted to? I just think, well, maybe we should have asked Steve Willis. I'm not sure whether he's been interviewed afterwards. I doubt it, because they tend to put the referees in cotton wool afterwards. But maybe the person in there that did know the rules better than anyone is Steve Willis, and he acted accordingly. That he said, I'm not going to give an 8 count for that. I know what happened. He didn't get hit. He went down. I did the right thing. I said, mate, you can't do that. I don't know. Maybe... did he explain it in the change rooms beforehand? There's a lot of questions out there. But end of the day, Steve Willis is one of the best referees in the world. We all love his facial expressions and everything else. Maybe he's the one that, knows the laws and regulations better than what we do, and he simply didn't have to, so he didn't. Who knows? If it was the case he had to give an 8 count though, Drew, yes, you would expect he would be reprimanded. I don't see a lengthy suspension. I really don't. I mean, I don't think you can come down hard on someone like that. I think it would just be I'm sure they do a review after all these fights as well to sit down and say, now, Steve, what happened there? If he was supposed to give the 8 count and he forgot or didn't know whatever, then yes, reprimand him. Give him a slap on the wrist and say, Steve, whatever. Treat him like an adult. But to give a lengthy suspension, I don't think would be warranted. But again, we don't know all the particulars, because we're all just guessing that he had to do it. But that hasn't been clarified yet, so let's see. Nectar of the Gods, you don't agree because you say he should be sacked. Naz, as much as I hate to admit it, I'm looking forward to the Ben Eubank fight. The Proms know how to build a domestic rivalry. It would be worth going just for the atmosphere. I'm with you there, Naz. I'm 100% in agreement. I think it would be great. Now, I think I said the other day as well, it's not a big fight on the international scene, but geez, in England, it's probably, I'm just trying to think of a bigger fight in recent years. Well, they sold over 60,000 tickets in 24 hours. Amazing. And they probably could have sold another 30 or 40,000. Just, they love the boxing over there. And I've said it again, in the past, I'll say it again. This is why we still need to have big fights in England and the States. Because can you imagine if Ben and Eubank fought in Saudi Arabia? It'd just be nothing. It'd be a great fight still, but it'd just be, whatever. And that's why I have to give credit to Turki Al Sheikh and all those involved. You said this fight has to be in England. Just like Fury and Joshua would have to be at Wembley. They'd have to do it there. I know Riyadh season's all supposed to be about Riyadh and in Saudi Arabia, but that fight's has got to be in England. A little bit like, too, they've done with Canelo and Crawford. Has to be in Las Vegas. It just has to be. So I'm glad that they've got a little bit of grey area in there as well. But I'm with you there, mate. I wasn't a big fan of the fight, but, geez, I'll be getting up early to watch that. Now, actually, I did see, I think it starts at like 12:30 in the morning. I know we're all used to it now, but I think for that one, that fight, I'll be getting up at whatever time to watch it, mate, for sure. All right, Daniel. Great to see the return of Jim Lampley to commentate. To commentate on May 2nd for the New York card? Okay, in my opinion, the best ever to do it. Well, I'm in agreement with you there, Daniel. I used to love Jim Lampley with HBO. I thought he was awesome. So that is the case. Now that's Riyadh card, isn't it? So May the 2nd is the Garcia card, isn't it? All right. Actually, I might just type that in and see if they've got any fights up on that at the moment. So if you haven't seen it, so Garcia is fighting Rolly Ramiro. Devin Haney is fighting Ramirez. And Teofimo Lopez is fighting Barboza. They couldn't do it at Alcatraz, and no surprises why. All the questions I brought up last week are the things they said as well. Well, half the park is blocked off to non-rangers or workers, whatever they are there, so you can't go to certain areas of Alcatraz. So the logistics of it just wouldn't have worked. So let's have a look and see if they've got any fights on that card yet. No, just the three. So Garcia, Ramiro, Haney and Jose Ramirez, and Teofimo Lopez, Arnold Barboza Jr. And there's only one world title fight out of those three, and that is the Lopez-Barboza fight for the WBO 140-pound title, and you'd be guaranteed that'll be third down in the order. I'd say Garcia will be the main event, and Haney as the co-main, and then, of course, they're into the fight in Riyadh later in the year. Now, that's a big weekend, Daniel. And I did say again the other day with Inoue. Now, it looks like he's going to fight on the Sunday in Vegas. So we'll have Friday night in New York and Sunday night in Las Vegas. The Saturday night will be in Saudi Arabia, which is Canelo. So it's a big weekend. I'll tell you what, it's definitely appealing to go and see those fights because you could easily get you go to New York first and then have a day's travel to get to Las Vegas. So it'd be a great weekend to be over there, Daniel. So let's see what we can get up to. All right. What's that, Al? Can you recommend a decent but cheap pair of boxing gloves for a garage warrior like myself? Well, it depends on where you are, mate. If you're in Australia, go to, now, what is it? Fight HQ. You'll see it advertised all the time on the Australian Boxing Central page. Really good price gloves on there. Is it AI or Al? I'm going to call you Al. But Fight HQ if you're in Australia, and maybe even if you're overseas, maybe they'll ship. But I'm not quite sure the best brands there, Al. Look, I don't know. They're all expensive these days. Just go to your local Big W or whatever, mate, or Rebel Sport. You'll find a cheap pair in there, mate. But if you want a half decent pair for a good price, go to Fight HQ. They've got some good deals on that site. OG Lights Out. What do you got there? Get ready for upset of the year, Basir. Hey, now you've been saying that a lot. OG Lights Out. Now, do you know something that we don't? Are you having a little bit of moment like I had last week with Manu beating Jalen Tate? Because you would have watched last week or listened last week. Actually, before I go on, I apologise. I didn't upload the episode last week. I did it today. I had someone message me and say, hey, where's the episode from last week, mate? I totally forgot about it, so I apologise. It was a big week, but I will get it right this week. But yeah, I did say about Manu beating Tate. So is this your sort of response to that? It is Basir A to beat Michael Zarafa. Now, I've got to question it, OG, because I just don't think No Limit would bring out someone that's going to upset the apple cart of a massive event featuring Michael Zarafa against one of the Tszyu boys. So I hope you know something that we don't there, mate. But we'll see. Although they did bring out Saavedra to fight Hardman, and brought others out as well that have performed well. So yeah, look, I'll come back to that, OG. And if you are right, well, you'll get full credit for that, mate, for sure. Paul, what do you got there, mate? Went to the Lee Wilson fight on Saturday. The South Bank Piazza is probably the best boxing venue in Australia. I had the cheapest tickets and I still had a great view of the action. Well, it looked really good on TV, Paul. Now, I've got a feeling, is that where Brock Jarvis fought Liam Parra? I think it is. It's almost like the stadium seating. It looked really good. I really love the way they do the stadiums that are like a bowl, and the seats go up and you can see the seats go right around the stadium. I reckon that's great. And by the looks of things, they don't fit a lot in there, but what they do fit in, it's a really, really good atmosphere. And and the atmosphere of the building really come through the screens on the night. It was fantastic. So I'll have to get up there one day, Paul. But I'm glad you went anyway, mate. That's great. Drunken boxing. I was most impressed with Gary Antoine Russell, a total shutout. He was good. Now, I haven't seen the whole fight, Drunken Boxing. I really like your photo there too on your avatar, whatever it is. I saw the highlights of it. And from what I saw, apart from a late sort of rally by Valenzuela, I think Russell won pretty much every round. I'm going to go back to that fight, actually. Where was it? I just want to see the scores, because I can't remember what the scores were. Where are we? I'll keep going back there. Nope, I've gone too far. Hang on, I'll type it in. Where are we? Alright, so the scores in that, I think it was pretty one-sided, wasn't it? But just for my own curiosity, I'll have a look at the... Alright, so... And on that card as well, by the way, Alberto Puello with a split decision over Sandor Martin. That was 115, 113 either way, and then 116, 112 for Puello. Again, I only saw highlights of that as well. He's not a bad fighter, Puello. Not bad at all. 24-0 now. So the scorecards in that one, yeah, one-sided. 120, 108, and 119, 109 times 2. I would have thought that Valenzuela would have won a couple of more rounds in that, especially late. I thought the last 3 rounds, you could almost given all 3 to him. So, yeah. Anyway, yeah, very impressive was he at Drunken Boxing. Now, he's now 18-1. What was it? And, yeah, of course, he lost to Puello, that's right. So there is talk that maybe he might fight him again. So we'll see. But I'm with you there, mate. From what I've seen anyway, very good performance by Gary Russell. All right, Mutsy. Yeah, Gary Russell had a good night out as well. Yep. All right, Mark. Roach had 2 amateur fights with Tank. Maybe Keyshawn isn't fighting Andy Cruz for a reason, losing 4 times. They're too familiar with each other. Well, maybe because Cruz, I think, beat him 4 times, Mark. That's probably got something to do with it as well. And if you look back to when Ryan Garcia fought Devin Haney, now, it's always good in hindsight, of course, but Ryan Garcia was very, very confident of beating Devin Haney. And you can see he prepped for it with that hook, that whipping type of hook that he just throws very unconventionally. And maybe he had success with that as an amateur. I did see one of those amateur fights. I can't remember which one it was. But he obviously saw something in those fights, had success with the hook. And in the pros, he was very confident he'd get to Haney, and he did. So maybe the same here. What were the results of those fights, Mark? I don't know. I wasn't aware they actually fought in the amateurs. So maybe Roach knew something we didn't, had some success against Tank, and that's why he performed so well. But I've got a feeling, Mark, that's why Keyshawn hasn't mentioned Andy Cruz for a reason. Mentioning everyone else, but he's not mentioning Andy Cruz because I think he lost to him 4 times. Yep. Jethro, Loma hit the ground running when he turned pro, but that sent everyone running away. Well, did he hit the ground running, though, Jethro? He fought, who was it in his second fight? The Mexican. What was his name? Hang on, I'll type. I should know this because I remember it like it was yesterday. Fought him in his second fight, a world title fight in his second fight. Orlando Salido, that was him. Lost a 12 round. Now, I actually thought that Lomachenko might have done enough to win that fight, but the score was there, looking at now 115, 113 either way. So it was a split decision, and 116, 112 for Salido. Again, I thought Loma won that fight. But after that, yeah, he fought Gary Allen Russell after that and won the WBO featherweight title. Can you believe that? He had his first 3 fights. So his first fight actually was a WBO international featherweight title fight. And the guy actually beat in that was called Jose Luis Ramirez. Now, he was actually, his namesake, same name, was one of the great Mexican lightweights back in the day as well. Jose Luis Ramirez. Fought the likes of Edwin Rosario and Camacho and Chavez as well, Ramirez. And, yeah, so fought him first, lost to Salido, and then fought Russell. So 2 world title fights in his first 3 fights. It's crazy. But when he had the belt, Jethro, no one could run because they had to fight him if they wanted the belt. But isn't that funny that in all those years he's had 21 fights? He turned pro in 2013. So he had an 11-year, or has had an 11-year career, and only fought 21 times. Not even twice a year. It's just crazy. All right, drunken boxing. Tailgate. Tank was huffing on that towel. He was too. There's a few gates at the moment, isn't there? Yes, that's the other theory getting around Polly the Farmer. I think the braid flicked his eye as he was punched. That was the other thing as well that was brought up. Now, all he had to do was say that. All he had to do was say, well, as my hair was flicking around, it got me in the eye, and I just had to take a knee to get my focus back. So maybe that was the case. But to use a grease excuse, yeah, not really buying it, mate. Not really buying it. I don't think anyone bought it. Oh, mate, Big J, I've been waiting for you to come on here, mate. Now, what do you got? Once again, Liam Wilson proves he's not world class. Should have KO'd Dib in there, but got taken the distance and almost got a draw. Full credit to Dib, though. Yeah, no, I'm with you there, mate. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I got an itchy nose there. Sorry, guys. Yeah, not world class. Yeah, look, it's hard to argue Big J because, again, I have addressed this in the review. He still tends to get hit far too much for me. Now, maybe he just got a little bit caught up in the moment, tried to knock Dib out. Maybe those two knockdowns early in the fight. Maybe he punched himself out a little bit. Maybe he got careless. Maybe he was just trying too hard to get Dib out of there, and didn't put in his best performance. But hey, he could have ended this fight in the second round, and we will all be probably sitting here saying what a great performance it was from Liam, and he made an example of Dib and erase any doubt from the first fight. But I won't lie, Big J, I am still concerned about the amount of punishment he takes. But again, maybe he just got caught up in the moment, and we'll see a better version of him if he does fight in a Sharky Foster or one of those types of guys. So, all right, Glenn, how are you there, mate? Evening all. Thrilled to see Tank confirming that he's just another protected PBC hype job, much like Wilder and Spence. Well, we all saw what happened to them, Glenn. Big J again. People of Brisbane. A Category 2 Cyclone is just piss and win. Don't worry, it ain't worth getting out of bed for. Call me when it's a Category 5. Yeah, well, in this day and age, though, Big J, I think we're all maybe a little bit more cautious than what we used to be back in the day. I think, I did hear a Talkback radio caller today. I just had the radio going because I was working from home, and they live up that way as well. And I think what they said is that, especially with what's happened in the past with some of those big, especially the Cyclone Tracy from about 40 years ago, that they do these days. They take things very, very literally, and if it is just a Category 2, then they'll take all precautions. In this cotton wool world, Big J, there mightn't be much to think about to the residents. They mightn't think anything of it, but the powers that be, well, they're like Big Brother these days, aren't they? And they've got to hold our hand every single chance they get, and maybe they'll say, oh, no, we can't leave it to chance, and we'll cancel the footy and lock everyone up in their homes. But you are a Brisbaneite, I think. I know you're definitely from Queensland. Can you tell me again why the hell you moved to Victoria, by the way, Big Joe, when you come from Queensland? I've always wanted to ask you that. Anyway, Danny Piggott, what do you got there, mate? The rules are the rules, and you have to follow what's in place at the time regarding Tank and Roach, and I love the show. Thanks, Danny. Well, mate, I'm with you. My question was, or my point was that, was it the actual rules, the concrete, in stone, they're the rules, or were they, again, open to interpretation? Because I don't know. Now, if the rules were, if you take a knee for whatever circumstance it is, then the count's there. The referee, again, of course, should be given a reprimand. But again, was it open to interpretation? That's what we need to find out. Another one from Polly, yeah, about the braid in the eye. Yeah, he did cop that jab in the eye, didn't he? And it just seemed to, hit him in the eye. Anyway, boxers get blood blocking the vision. They don't just wander over the corner for a towel wipe. Crazy stuff. Yeah, well, it was bizarre. No matter how you look at it, Polly, it was bizarre in the fact that you got a fighter who was having his, 31st fight and would have had an extensive amateur background as well. But all that amateur stuff aside, just the pros, 31 fights. And he thought it was okay to walk to his corner and get his face wiped off. Just, yeah, you're right there, mate. It was crazy stuff. It really was. All right, Roach outsmarted Tank by keeping his distance and countering Tank. Tank usually is on the back foot waiting for a mistake. Yeah, we tried to do that, Monk, didn't he? But he was the one getting countered. So it was a good fight plan by Roach, and whoever said it before about maybe the fact that they fought in the amateurs, maybe that's what gave Roach the confidence to go out there and fight the way he did. You can't give it up when Sam Solomon won his first title at 39. Yes, I never give up. Maloney will be back, but losing to a 5-0 fighter is quite concerning. I get that Big J is 5-0, but he did have 48 fights or 47 fights, whatever, as a kickboxer. Now, I know it's not boxing. I know that, but it's still boxing or some form of boxing, kickboxing, whatever it was that he's done. He's been in the ring 47, 48 times beforehand, been through the process, and the only difference here is not able to kick. He's just using his hand. So I do get what you're saying, but it's not like a guy coming out of the amateurs and having 5 fights and then beating Jason. I don't sort of subscribe to that. Tenshin Nasukawa, you could see by the way he fought, he knew what he was doing. He's been around a long time. Very, very proficient with the hands. I was actually impressed with the way he used his hands, which is probably why he's so successful as a kickboxer, because a lot of them just focus on the feet. He's obviously focused on the hands, made the transition very, very easily. And, yeah, I don't sort of read too much into that, mate, the fact that he was 5-0. But I do agree with your point there that Sam Solomon was 39. And look, again, my point is that, again, you're a long time retired. And if you're not getting smacked around or outclassed or beaten up or knocked out, whatever it might be, well, why shouldn't you keep going as long as you can? At 30, he's only just turned 34 years old. You know, who knows? He could have 4 or 5, even 6 years left in him. We don't know. Nonito Donaire went till he was about 40, didn't he? And gave Naoya Inoue some of his best fights in his late 30s. So, yeah, I think in this instance, age is just a number. And what you also got to look at is Jason and Andrew Maloney both keep themselves in absolute tip-top shape. Even out of training, they're always no more than 4 or 5 kilos overweight. Now, I know to the average punter out there, that sounds a lot. It's not a lot, I can assure you. Most the fighters put on that, you know, the day after or the day of the weigh-in, they'll put that on. They always keep themselves around the mark, always ready to go. So if the phone call comes, you know, they're on the plane the next day. That's the way they roll. So they eat well. Neither of them drink or carry on. They probably let themselves go for a week or so after they fight, like all fighters do. But apart from that, they are 100% ready to go at all times. They look after themselves. Not like they put on 20 kilos in between fights. It's not like they go out and get on the booze or take drugs and that sort of stuff. They are the ultimate or consummate professionals, and that's why they've got longevity, which is again why Sam Solomon was able to do it as well. Big J, another one that always keeps himself sharp and in shape. Having said that, I hope he retires soon, Sam. But when he won the title at 39, same circumstances. Always ready to go. And that's why, just because you lose a fight, I just don't think it's just stumps, pull up stumps and retire. It doesn't make sense. And I've got no doubt that Jason will be back. And look, a couple of years ago, we thought Andrew was on the scrap heap, and now he's pushing for a world title shot as well. So I've still got to hope that Jason will be back, and I think he's still got plenty left. Don't worry about that. Eminem, what about Mason versus Nieka? That's a good fight, Eminem. I like that fight. Yes, and it could be made quite easily. Mason has fought with Ace Boxing over the journey. Nieka has fought with No Limit. Fantastic fight. I think that would be a ripper, Eminem. Who wins? I was going to say before the Jai fight, I would have said Nieka. But who knows what effect that's going to have on him. And Mason is the type of guy, he's just there. He's not going to take a backward step. He's going to be there till the final bell. Could he wear Nieka down? But either way, it'd be a great fight. And I think Mason's actually a Kiwi as well, isn't he? I know we've adopted him here in Australia. But yeah, no, a very, very good fighter is Floyd Mason. I'm a fan of his, and that would be a ripper fight, Eminem. Well, I was going to say we're an hour and 10 minutes into the show, Drew, and no one's mentioned Tszyu yet. Here we are. First question. I like it. Do you think it is a concern if Tszyu goes the distance with Joey Spencer, or will Tszyu and Tim just be satisfied to get back in the winning column by any means necessary? Definitely the latter there, Drew. I don't think a stoppage or whatever it is matters anything in this fight, mate. He just needs to win. I wouldn't be too stressed if Tim stays on the outside for the whole fight, picks his shots, uses his jab, throws a right hand or left hook, whatever, skips off to the side and fights ultra conservatively for all 12 rounds, mate, I would not be stressed whatsoever. This is all about just getting a W. That's all it's about. And I think we could forgive Tim if he is ultra conservative and safe in this fight. Drew, I don't think anyone would begrudge him. That last fight was devastating for him, and I really think that this fight is just all about just getting the win by any means necessary. Now, if he goes out there and tries to blow Joey Spencer away, I would be actually yelling through my TV, or maybe I'm there live, I don't know. Tim, don't do it. Back off. Be cautious about it. Now, who knows? You might get Joey Spencer hurt in there at some stage and try and get him out of there. That's fine. But I'm sort of hoping that Tim boxes cautiously and just uses his jab, picks his shots, stays on the outside, and, mate, I would be more than happy with that. It's just about getting the win at the moment. And I think Team Tszyu and Tim would be very, very satisfied if that's the case as well, mate. So, Eminem, Joey Spencer's past opponents ain't great. Tim should be levels above. Well, I think he is levels above Eminem. That's why I think it's a great choice of opponent. I really do. I think Joey Spencer comes forward. He likes to punch on, but not overly skilled. He's very open to counters. Can be hit, of course. And I just think he's custom made for Tim Tszyu. Not a big puncher either. Perfect opponent for Tim Tszyu. And I think Tim will be made to look pretty good. I just hope he doesn't get made to look too good, Eminem, and all of a sudden the pressure starts to mount. Timmy's back. Timmy's going to do this, and watch out Canelo and watch out Crawford. That's what I don't want to see. And I like the fact they've put the bit of the kibosh on not talking about any other fights than Joey Spencer. That's great. Shows they've got the focus. But I'm just weary of what the press will say about him afterwards and the fans out there as well. I just hope Tim sort of puts the shutters up, keeps all that outside noise where it should be, and just looks at it for what it is and doesn't think about anyone else and get too ahead of himself. That's what happened in the last fight. So I just hope he just gets the win by any means possible, gets another fight under his belt, although he has said that he only wants one, call it a tune-up fight or whatever they're treating this as, then they want to make the leap back. I don't know. I would prefer at least 2 fights, but who knows? Maybe he gets in there, he feels good, timing's good, maybe he has a really impressive performance, and maybe he does decide to step up, but I don't want to see him fight any of those killers straight up. Now, if you're looking at the rankings, and I know someone's probably saying, well, who would he fight if he does step up? I'm looking at the top rankings at the moment. Now, I would think, let's see, depends on what belt he's going to go for. You'd think he'd go for, well, Murtazaliev's got the IBF, so let's put a line through that. He's not going to go for the IBF, unless maybe Murtazaliev goes up a division. Crawford's an interesting one. He's got the WBA belt. Now, if he goes up and challenges Canelo, maybe they vacate the belt. Now, you've got Erickson Lubin and Jesus Ramos there. Now, I think he's a good chance to beat Lubin. Ramos would be tough. He would be tough. You got Magomed Kurbanov there, who would be tough as well. Madrimov, I think Tim would be a very good chance of beating him as well. So the WBA is not bad. He can beat a few of those guys. The WBC is a little bit of a different story, because you've got Fundora. We all think he could perform well against Fundora, but it's not him we should be worried about, because that's way down the track. Ortiz Jr., no way, not yet. Boachuk, I'd stay away from. Madrimov, as I said, beatable, but maybe not quite yet. Zayos, not yet. Charles Conwell, yeah. I'm not overly impressed with him. Jesus Ramos, probably no. And then from about 6 downwards, you got Callum Walsh. Callum Walsh? Ermal Hadri Beev. I don't know those types of guys. So down from 5, Jesus Ramos is number 5. Down from there, beatable. Who else? Then we've got the WBO. Makes sense to maybe go back through the WBO. You got Zayas at number 1, Conwell at number 2, Josh Kelly at 3, Jorge Perez at 4, Chordell Booker at 5, who won't be there for much longer. So that's gettable as well. So he could really target the WBA or WBO, I would think, and be a very, very good chance of beating a lot of those guys. Again, it depends on what happens with Fundora and what Crawford does. He's got the interim WBO belt. So, yeah, some possibilities there for Tim. But yeah, I would definitely stay away from probably the top 5 in most of those organisations for now anyway. But plenty of other guys you could fight. All right, still on the Roach and Davis fight. I was under the impression Steve Willis should have given an 8 count, but the 3 judges don't have to score a 10-8 round. They have the ability to see a rare thing, common sense. Hope that makes sense. Well, that's the way I saw it too, Tony. That's what I was thinking as well, that maybe he had to give a count, but the judges didn't have to give it a 10-8 round. Now, that would have been the perfect scenario, and we wouldn't be talking about it at the moment. Yeah, there'd be a few people say, well, hang on, you got an 8 count, why wasn't it a 10-8 round? That's the grey area. So that's what we just need clarification. But I think what should have happened, Tony, is he maybe should have given him the 8 count, but the judges didn't score it a 10-8 round. We still have the decision as we have it now, which is, I think, the fair result. Drunken boxing. Hang on, I'll go back to you in a sec there, Naz. I'm looking forward to Eubank versus Ben. Who have you got winning? I think Nigel. Oh, not Nigel. What's his name? Conor Ben. Drunken boxing. I think Conor Ben, even though he's a smaller guy, I think you'll see him overpower Eubank. I think he stops Eubank in 8 or 9 rounds. I think maybe 8 rounds. I'll say now. I think Conor Ben stops Chris Eubank Jr. in 8 rounds. Maybe earlier. I just don't think Chris Eubank's got the power to keep Conor Ben off. And I'm certainly not singing Conor Ben's praises here. I don't think he's really that elite either, but I just think his style will just overpower Eubank, and I think he wins by stoppage. What's that, Naz? I saw Glenn Jennings on D-Style saying Cooper O'Connell's hopefully debuting on Tim's undercard. Would be great if Shotgun could get a fight on the card as well. Yeah, I did see that, Naz. Just excuse me a sec, I'll have a drink. Yes, I did see that. Now, I might just have a look as we're going here, see whether they've got any fights on that card. I don't think they do. But I did see that, Naz, and I did hear that. I did speak to Shannon about 3 weeks ago, I think, and she did say that he was probably going to be on that card. At the time, she was going to be fighting, I think, on the March 12th card, which is obviously not going to happen. Then they're looking at, Tim's card, and it might be Nikita's card, which I think is the end of April. So we'll see. So far, his fight's on... It is on BoxRec, but I'm not sure there's any... Nah, all that's on there at the moment is the Colin Mazudia Dan Hill fight and the Brendan Grash fight in the TBA, which is strange because I was under the impression that they were going to announce that the day after the Tim Tszyu announcement. Obviously not, so we'll keep an eye on that. But, yeah, I did hear that, Naz, and that will be great. The only thing is, Naz, I think... it is in Newcastle, isn't it? And I think the opponents they might have been throwing around for Cooper might have been local fighters. Now, I don't think you want to put a local fighter in against the star amateur making his debut. Now, and this is, again, sort of the unwritten rule. You think it'll be someone in there just to make Cooper look really good in his pro debut, which is the way it's been done forever and will be done going forward. I think we all expect the amateur star turning pro. It's a first or second round knockout against some woefully overmatched opponent. And I would expect the same for Cooper. He's only a young kid, by the way. He's only 18 or 19, so we've got to look after him a bit as well. But I think having a local fighter in there with all the crowd behind him, not the ideal opponent to put him in with. So I'm sure they'll find him someone else. But it would be, what a card to debut on, Naz. On Tim Tszyu's undercard would be fantastic for him. Bacon and Eggs, how are you, mate? Welcome to the show. What do we got? Drew. In a battle of the senior citizens, who will be forced to retire first, Michael Buffer or Jimmy Lennon Jr.? Love the nostalgia these guys bring, but I think new blood is needed to announce the fights. I still think Jimmy Lennon Jr.'s got a bit of life in him, Drew. I think he's still got a bit left. Michael Buffer, yeah, I think unfortunately it's passed Michael Buffer by. And just has slipped a little bit. He just tends to be going through the motions a little bit, does Michael Buffer. And I think he would be the one who will retire first, Drew. And look, what an announcer he's been. He's probably the most famous announcer of all time is Michael Buffer. Jimmy Lennon Jr., I still think he's got a bit of air left in the tyres there, Drew. But I'm with you. They need to introduce some more. And I think that they are starting to do that. A lot of the other promoters are starting to use different guys, but none of them are still better than Michael Buffer or Jimmy Lennon Jr. as far as I'm concerned. David Diamante that works for Eddie Hearn, look, he's up there as well as the new breed. Not that he's new, but the younger brigade. But yeah, I think I'd still love to see Jimmy Lennon hang around for a bit longer. Dennis, feeling anxious for Tim against Spencer. Another loss in his career is in free fall. What chance of an upset? If I had to give a percentage, Dennis, 10%, maybe 15%. That's about it, I reckon. I think he's been carefully chosen, and I think he's a perfect opponent. And I won't hear anyone say, oh, who is he? He's done. Well, doesn't matter. I think we're all in agreement that Tim, he needs an opponent that's not at that level. He needs someone that's, that 15 to 20 mark, or 15 to 25 even, in the rankings. So, yeah, I don't want to hear, well, who's this guy and never heard of him and this and that. I don't care. I wouldn't have cared if Tim fought someone that was 20 wins and 10 losses. I really wouldn't have. It's all about just getting back in the ring and getting a win under his belt. Probably it would have been hard to justify $70 to watch that, by the way. But Spencer, look, he's very credible. If you're not sure who he is, yes, okay, he's not at that real elite level, but he can fight. I think he won the PBC Prospect of the Year a couple of years ago. So he can fight, make no mistake. But again, custom made for Tim, and I think Tim will win very comfortably. All right. Garcia Haney, 3-3 in the amateurs. That's right. Mark says Tank beat Roach twice in the amateurs, but Roach said it was close and believed he won. Yeah, yep. I wouldn't argue against that. Tony, many decades ago, Leicester had a promotional sparring session with the Geelong Footy Clubs. Was that Geelong Footy Club boys? No joke. Gary Ablett went hard at Leicester for a footy player. He had good hands. I did see that, Tony. I was actually talking about that the other night to a guy up in Bendigo that come into the pub who I've known for many years, and I used to spar with and go to the fights, and he was really good friends with Leicester. And we're actually talking about him sparring Gary Ablett at the Geelong Footy Club. He was there, I think he said, and Gary Ablett actually put a few on Leicester. Now, you also got to remember, though, Gary Ablett was probably walking around at 100 kilos or 95 kilos, whatever. Leicester was, probably 60 kilos, 63, 64 kilos, so a lot of weight. And Gary Ablett did have good hands. And I have heard a lot of boxing people say that Gary Ablett could have been a pretty good fighter. But yeah, that was a long time ago. Was that maybe the late 80s, I reckon it was, maybe early 90s? OG lights out. A 40-year-old Brown was putting hands on him. Zarafa is a very average boxer, all mouth, no skills. Yep. Yeah, well, only went one round, though, the Brown fight, though, OG. But, yeah, I hear you. All right, Polly the Farmer. You mentioning officials using discretion reminded me of Tommy Alvin stream. Into the footy, are we? All right, here we go. Reminded me of Tommy Alvin streaming down the field. His opponent pulled him to the ground by his hair, and the umpire paid holding the ball. I do remember that, Polly, and as a Carlton supporter, I was ropeable. I was only young at the time, by the way. So if you don't know, sorry, I've just got an itchy nose here tonight. If you're not familiar with AFL, or you don't follow it closely, Tommy Alvin played for Carlton, and he had long hair pretty much down to his backside. And he had it in a ponytail, or almost like a horse's tail, isn't it? A donkey's tail, whatever you might want to call it. It was that long. And in AFL, of course, to tackle them, you got to grab them and pull them to the ground, and get the ball away from whatever, or tackle them with the ball, holding the ball. So he's grabbed him by the hair and pulled him down. So, but where is the grey area in it? Maybe there is no rule that says you can't. Well, there'd have to be a rule that says you can't grab somebody by the hair, wouldn't there? Surely. But I think maybe at the time it was like, all right, maybe grab them by any means necessary, as long as it's not around the neck or around the hips or the knees. Grab them whatever, and the hair was at waist level, so maybe it was okay. But no, I do remember that, Polly, and no good, mate. So they've always been against Carlton for some reason, the umpires. All right, who we got there? John Stanley. Hi, mate. Are you coming to my hometown of Newcastle for the Tszyu fight? I'm hoping to, John. Let's see about it, mate. We'll see. What is it? Only about 5 weeks away, I think it is. So I'll just have to see, mate. As everyone knows here, I've just had the pub open, so I've just got to see if I can manage that. But I'd love to get there, John. I went up to Newcastle for the Nikita Tszyu and Mason Smith fight, and I think it was the night that Paul Gallen fought Tszyu and got beaten in that one as well. That was a ripper night of fights as well. I just want to actually see who was on that card. It was a great night of fights anyway. To get off subject here, I'm going to type it in. But I love Newcastle, John. Not a lot to do there, but I flew in the day of the fight and flew out the next morning, so I didn't really get to see a lot of it. But now that fight, Mason Smith, there it was. So that was in May of 2022. I was up there. So I remember on that card, so Sam Goodman was on the card. That was a good fight, actually, against Fuzi, the Japanese. You had Paul and Tszyu. Harry Garside fought Leighton McFerrin on that card. We had Francis Tszyu on that card. Oh, that's right. Hassan Hamden and Trent Girdham. I remember that was a ripper. That was pretty spiteful. Amber Amelia on there as well. Lynn Sandstrom as well. So it was a good card. Really good card, mate. But we'll see, John. What do we got there? Nash Knuckles Wall. How are you, Nash? Welcome to the show. What do you got there, mate? Enjoy your boxing channel. What advice do you got for someone who's just had a couple of fights? Thanks. Advice for someone who's just had a couple of fights. They're obviously a young amateur, are you there, Nash? Or Knuckles, what do we call you there? We'll call you Nash. My advice is, mate, if you're an amateur at this stage, fight as often as you can, but have put no bearing on your record whatsoever, mate. So don't worry about records, okay? So it's all about getting experience at your level and getting as many rounds into you as possible. So without being put in there with someone that's, far more advanced than what you are, fight as often as you can. And as I said, mate, don't stress about records. I know in this day and age, even with amateurs, they look at all these fighters, and even the amateurs, they lose a fight and it's like the end of the world. It's not the end of the world, mate. I had about 100 amateur fights, and everyone knows here, well, most people that watch it know, I went to Olympics, Commonwealth Games, World Championships, all that sort of stuff. Mate, I wouldn't have a clue what my record was. All that matters is when you get to the level, you win when it counts. So when those qualifiers come with those, whether it be your state titles to go to the nationals or the national titles to go to some international events, that's when it matters. So it doesn't matter at all what your record is, mate. Just get the rounds in, get the fights in, have as many fights as you can, and just keep practicing, mate. Oh, and the other thing is, I always say to the guys I work with, and kids, a lot of them especially, is basics, Nash. Basics, basics, basics. Don't worry about all the stuff you see on YouTube and all what the pros do. Don't take any of the flashy pad routines, any of that sort of shit. Footwork, footwork, footwork. Every session, do your footwork forward and back and left and right. Your jab, straight punches, the basics, mate. Don't overcomplicate things. And again, don't watch all the flashy pad routines that the pros do. Get the basics right, and you'll win most of the fights using the basic stuff. A good jab, straight right hand, and just get your technique right, mate, and you'll be fine. All right, I hope I didn't confuse you there, mate. But anyway, John, not boxing related. Wife wants to know, how is Neil going? Any more escapes lately? No, John, he's been pretty good. We have got the collar around him at the moment with the air tag in it, but no, he's been pretty good. He's got it pretty good here, I can tell you. But he's just he's a wanderer. He's a vagabond or whatever they call him. But no, he's good, mate. He's just turned 8, I think last week or the week before he turned 8, and loves going for his walks. Doesn't care how late I've been up the night before or how I'm feeling, whatever. He's there at about 7:15 every morning saying, "Let's go." And it's funny, when I open the door, I sort of wait. I have the door ready to go, and he's sort of bouncing on the spot, and I'll say 3, 2, 1, and I open the door, and he almost takes off. He goes that fast, and he bolts down the driveway, and I've got the lead in my hand. I don't put it on him straight away because it's outside. So I open the door, and by the time I get the lead in my hand, he's halfway down the road, and I've got to actually run after him and chase him to put the lead on him. But no, he's a good dog, and I just love having a rescue dog. First one I've ever had, and geez, it feels really good to give a dog a second chance. It really does. So if you're out there and you're wondering, I think someone else commented a few weeks ago that they took my advice and got a rescue dog, because it breaks your heart when you lose your dog. And I lost my dog, or our dog, nearly a couple of years ago now. Absolutely ripped my heart out. He was my best mate, besides my sons, of course, and really cut deep. And I didn't think I'd ever be able to have a dog again, and took the jump and saw little Neil on a social media page and got him, and it's the best thing I've done. So, and I think they say you honour your previous dog by giving another dog a second chance. So if you're having second thoughts about ever getting a dog again, I can assure you, do it. It's the best decision you'll make. They're the best companions, they really are. I know not everyone's a dog person, but I just couldn't imagine life without a dog. First one I've ever had, though, John, I must admit, I've had to take for regular walks. Normally I get the dogs that are lazy, like my old bulldog, who was an Aussie bulldog. We've got a decent-sized backyard. He was happy we'd go out and shut the gates. He'd be outside all day. Wouldn't see him. He'd be out playing or lying under a bush asleep or chasing little lizards out there or whatever it was, and he was happy. Never, ever. We could have the gates open. He wouldn't attempt to get out. Didn't ever want to go for a walk. But Neil, every day, an hour every day, John. He walks an hour, sometimes more. Keeps me in shape as well anyway. So, no, he's doing well, John, and you can tell your wife he's happy. All right, Naz. Charlie Senior back in the UK and signed with Queensberry. It would have been good to keep him here to fight for Australia. Yeah, it would have been, Naz, but I did see that. But, no, obviously probably a few more opportunities over there for him, mate. Monk, with sports science these days, you can probably stay in your prime for 4 or 5 more years. I agree, Monk, especially if you look after yourself. You know, I know fighters that put on 20 kilos in between fights and let themselves go and they get fat, and so they've got to have a camp to have a camp. The Maloney boys, mate, they are just ready to go every single time. So I think they give themselves a few days. They get on the burgers and shakes and all that sort of stuff. But after that, straight back into training, keep their weight at an acceptable level to the point where if they had to take a fight on probably a week or two's notice, they'd be ready to do it. So, Mutzi, tension has improved a lot in a short amount of time. His footwork and hand speed are impressive. Yeah, it definitely, mate. I still think Jason could get to him. That's why I'd like to see him in a 12-rounder. But, yeah, good hand speed. I was surprised when he started to trade with Jason. That's when he had the most success. I think when he got back on his bike and sort of tried to give Jason angles. That's when he won the fight. But yeah, certainly don't see the end of the line for Jason. That's for sure. There's Cal Jane. How are you? I'm well, thank you. Eminem, Benji Birchall, Australia's 15-year-old pro boxer. Yep, he's now 2-0, 2 KOs. I didn't know he had the second fight, Eminem. And read he's fighting again this week. If he keeps this up, he'll have 50 fights by the time he's 20 years old. Yeah, no, he might, mate. But he's the son of David Birchall, who was... it's funny, David was one of my main antagonists back in the day. He was always the other welterweight when I was fighting, and we're great mates to this day. But we never fought in the ring. For one reason or another, we never fought. But we're always around the same mark all the time, but never fought. But Benji is his son, and 15 years of age. I think what's going to happen, Eminem, is that I think he's in Thailand, isn't he? They'll probably give him 15 to 20 ties to knock out, and then get him to 18 years of age, and then he'll turn pro here in Australia, and he'll be ready to go. Because I think it'll just be an apprenticeship. They're certainly not going to give him anyone that's going to be a threat to him. I wouldn't have thought. It'll just be a matter of, because see, when you turn pro, it's a lot more than just getting in and fighting and getting the rounds. I mean, it's a whole lifestyle of being a pro boxer. When you've been an amateur and you go to the pros, it's a different way of training. You're using different gloves. You've got different weigh-in times and days and all the rest of it. It's just getting used to becoming a pro. So I think it's great that he's going to have a 3-year apprenticeship. Probably no pressure at all. And again, I don't think you're going to put him in with anyone with a pulse. And that's fine. Strictly an apprenticeship. Go over there. Learn to be a pro, so when you get to 18 years of age, you'll probably come and get signed by No Limit or someone, and bang, you'll be gone. And you'll be off and running, and who knows, could fight for some sort of title. You know, he's 20, 21 years of age. So, no, it's great to see. 15 years of age, just amazing. And all the best to Benji out there, and his dad as well. What's that? I see Saavedra is on the Tim Spencer card. No Limit has the card. Okay, I didn't see that. Hang on, we better have a look there. Eminem, give me a look. All right. No Limit boxing. Fight details. All right. Okay, where is it? No. Put it up there, Eminem. I'm on there at the moment. I'm looking at the fight card, and there's only the Tszyu Spencer fight up. Hang on, event schedule. Tickets on sale. Fight card. No, I'm only seeing one fight up there, mate. I can't see the rest, sorry. So let us know. Daniel says, been hearing great things about Benji. Has a very astute boxing person guiding, which happens to be his father, David. Yeah, and David, apart from obviously being a fighter back in the day, was part of Danny Green's team as well. And I think Jeff Harding, or maybe that was before his time. I know he trained with Jeff, but he definitely was part of the Green Machine team when he was around too. So knows his stuff, does David. And of course, trained with Johnny Lewis and all that back in the day. Jeff Fennick, Tszyu, Jeff Harding. So very, very experienced and a great guy as well. Shadow Boxer, do you have any lingering injuries or issues from your time in the ring? No, not really, mate. I know I've got the nose, but that didn't happen in boxing. I had 100 fights and about 1,000 spars, or probably more, probably 5,000 spars, and never had it busted. I had a lot of scratches and bruises and everything on it, but never broken. I won't tell the story about that, but it didn't happen boxing, put it that way. The only thing I got these days, Shadow Boxer, is probably every now and then, you know, the shoulders might play up a bit. Actually, again, it might surprise you out there, but the one lingering thing I have is bad knees. When it gets cold, they sort of ache because I had flat feet, and all the years of running, I'd run 5 days a week, probably do 30, 40 Ks a week plus sprints and everything else running, and I had flat feet. I always got shin splints when I was running because of the flat feet, and I actually broke my leg badly when I was a 3 or 4 year old. I got run over by a car and snapped my leg in two, so I've always had issues with that. But yeah, my knees ache when it gets a bit cold, Shadow Boxer, or if I do too much on them, if I'm training and do a bit too much, my legs ache or my knees ache, and that's probably about it. No dramas with the hands, you know, that's probably the shoulders occasionally, I suppose, but no, I'm actually pretty good, I think. All right, Drew, slightly controversial take. I'm not trying to take credit away from the conquerors of Fury and Wilder since they fought, but I think both fighters took so much out of each other. Yeah, no, you're probably right there, Drew. They were wars, weren't they? They really were. When are we getting a tour of the KO Lounge? Oh, mate, well, I did take some footage the other night. I'll put it up. I'll let you know. Naz. Any Oz boxers who could be in the WBC Grand Prix? Yeah, I did see that. 26 or younger, 10 or fewer fights. I think the weights are 126, 140, 160, and heavyweight. Maybe Max McIntyre if you can make middleweight. Well, let's have a quick look. I know I'm probably falling way behind, but whatever. We'll keep going over if we have to. All right, so 126. If it'll come up. Yep. Where are we? The ratings. Men. I'm assuming it's just for men, Naz. All right. So what is it? Heavyweight. Where are we? Heavyweights. Hang on. What's happened here? It's not coming up. Come on, AMBF site. All right. Men's national ratings. Here we go. So at heavyweights, I'm not sure anyone would really... Nope, can't see anyone there. 140. So where are we? How many fights is... No, John Manu's had more than it, hasn't he? Actually, I think he's had 11 or 12. He was probably the one I was thinking of. At 140. Oh, yeah, he's had 17 fights. 140. Charlie Kazi might be a bit early for him, maybe. Good young kid. Billy Pokinghorn, definitely. Could throw him in there. No doubt about that. 160. Middleweight. Where are we? That's super lightweight. We don't want that. Super middleweight. Oh, there's middleweight there. Nope, can't really see anyone there, mate, that I would put in with someone like who you're going to get at those weights. So, nah, not many, mate. Nah, only the... Who would I say there? Was it 160, was it? No, 160, where was it? Nah, can't really think of any. No, sorry, mate. Sorry to take a bit of time there, but... Not really. Tanker's dropped out of the top 10 for me. I wouldn't go that far, Peter. You've been a bit harsh. Look, actually, I'll take that back. I think he was on the cusp anyway, so maybe he's dropped out. Yep. I think Jai should probably go above him now. What do you reckon? Peter also says, Liam Wilson does my head in with great power but limited boxing IQ and the inability to step back and thinking his way through a fight. That's my criticism as well, Peter. Stay at long distance, Liam. You don't need to get in close. Now, he's just got this thing about him, and sometimes it's hard to get it out of somebody. He's a boxer, but he thinks he's a fighter. He can fight, by the way, but he doesn't need to fight. He's a very, very good fighter at long range, but he just loves to get in close and get in the trenches with fighters and ends up getting caught, doesn't he? So, yeah, I'm with you though, mate. I know they're working on it, but he needs to get that right if he's going to go back to the top level. All right, great work if you can get it, but I can't remember too many fighters continuing to get so many opportunities after one legitimate signature win, like George Kambosos has. Got to love George. Well, hey, he's had Ryan Garcia talking or smack with him online. He's had Tank Davis. He's had Richardson Hitchens. He's had them all coming for him. So he's definitely on the lips of all those guys over there, Drew. He's a very, very marketable guy, is George Kambosos, and yeah, I'll make no qualms in that. I'm a fan of his and everything he brings. But you're right. He's since he beat Teofimo Lopez in, what was it, November or whatever it was of 21. So 3 years. Arguably hasn't won a fight since. But Hitchens and Tank are all still talking about George Kambosos Jr. So that's a credit to him, I suppose. He works pretty hard out of the ring, or just as hard outside the ring as he does inside the ring, doesn't he? He's keeping himself relevant. So what's that, Cal Jane? Is Harry Garside still boxing, or the Olympics take it out of him? Haven't heard much about him at all, Cal. I did read somewhere that he might be retiring and going into some sort of like trying to get into TV or something, but he's a talent, but he has got bad hands, and he's not a big puncher either. So it's not a good combination to have Cal Jane, but he's a very talented guy, so we'll see, mate. No worries at all, Nash. Anytime, mate. Double G, speaking of George, does he seriously have a leg to stand on when it comes to Tank and the midget references? Can you say that these days? Is that still a word? Aren't they little people? I'm not sure we can even call them little people anymore. Anyway, I swear he was wearing thick-soled shoes when facing off with Tszyu. Yeah, maybe. Look, I don't know. I think these days, mate, anything goes with the trash talk, doesn't it? He made a point, though. You know, George, he's fought Haney twice and Lomachenko since he fought Lopez. And Tank Davis is fighting Lamont, Roach and Frank Martin. So he's got a point. Maybe he's overstepped the mark a little bit there, Double G, by calling him a midget. But, hey, as I said, anything goes these days. Drew, what sort of time frame do you think it will be until Andy Cruz fights for a world title? He's not everyone's cup of tea, but I love watching him fight. I think it will be very, very soon, Drew. And if you look at the ratings, this is before they've been updated. He's currently, I'm going to take out the not rated rankings. Again, I don't know how you can have a ranking that's vacant. So I'm going to say he's number 2 with the IBF, number 2 with the WBA, number 1 with the WBC, and number 9 with the WBO. So with Lomachenko looking to retire, he could fight Abdulaev for that vacant belt. Or he could fight, well, he's got Stevenson or Zepeda. He could fight either one of them. Or he could fight Schofield or Davis or one of those types of guys. But if Lomachenko retires, well, he's probably going to fight next for that vacant belt. So it could be very, very soon, mate. He's going to be a good fighter, Andy Cruz. Or he already is a good fighter, but I think he's going to dominate for quite some time. All right, we'll keep the comments going pretty quickly. It was me that got the rescue dog, mate. Thank you for getting me over the line. I was in a deep hole and couldn't get out of it. Between my new mate and Monday night, life's pretty good now. Thank you. Oh, mate, you're gonna bring a tear to my eye, Tony. I think that you like coming on here, mate. It's great to have you along, mate, and I'm really glad that my experience with Neil has made you or encouraged you to get a dog, and I'm glad that you got a new best, mate. So all the best to you, Tony, and I hope you're doing well, mate. And thanks for watching as well. It means a lot. All right, Shadow Boxer. Any advice on how to overcome the fear, flinching, or being punched when sparring? That's another very good question, Shadow Boxer. Look, what I will say is, again, sorry, I've got shorts on here. I'm stuck to the seat. What I'll say is, in this instance here, Shadow Boxer, unfortunately, you can't prepare somebody for how they're going to react when they get punched. All right, so the first thing when I say to guys having those first spars, and probably in reference to your point there, is to try and get, because everyone's natural habit when someone throws a punch is to do this. Chin up, hands down. It's just, you see them in street fights because they sort of fight on the back foot with the chin up in the air. you've got to go against the grain. All right, you've got to go against the grain and actually embrace the contact. And when I say embrace it, I don't mean just stick your shit out there and let them hit you. I mean, my thing with everyone, teaching them the basics, again, is what I said to the young fella, basics, is the 3 big ones: hands up, chin down, elbows in. That's it. That's the start, apart from your footwork, of course. But hands up, chin down, elbows in. I just say it over and over and over again. So when I say embrace it, you've got to actually get in the habit of coming forward. So as or someone's punching you, you have to have the habit of keeping tight, but actually coming forward. Don't go back, because that's the natural reaction of someone, is to go backwards with the chin up in the air. Even if the hands are up, the natural reaction is to go back with the chin in the air, and you can't fight doing this. No, you can't punch back. Or the elite can, but the average person can't. So my thing is to hands up, chin down, elbows in, and actually embrace closing the distance and getting close to your opponent, not being a long way away. So, but again, mate, it's experience. It's experience, just over and over and over again. But again, you can't teach someone how to react when they get punched. And I must admit, when I see someone in there that actually does spar for the first time, I'm actually really curious. And this is, sometimes you can tell whether maybe they've got it or they don't. Not saying you haven't got it if you flinch. I'm not saying that. But sometimes you see that first reaction of when someone does throw a punch at them, how they do react. And some will do that, and some will just go, okay, and they'll just put the hands up and take it. And they're the ones that have got a good base to start with. Okay, so, but there's no guaranteed tried and true rule shadow boxing. You've just got to go through the experience of having someone punch you. But that's what I was trying to get at. Or trying to go against the grain of that natural reaction is to go backward. You need to actually put the hands up and come forward and close the distance rather than widen the distance. I should start a YouTube channel on little boxing tips, shouldn't I? But I can't emphasize enough again. It's repetition. Now, I lost a lot of young fighters because of that. All right, because they wanted to come in, not just kids, but they would come in, and when a lot of fighters start boxing, they just want to hit things, especially young kids. They just want to put the gloves on and just punch on. All right, so I'd have my guys footwork, doing all those basic stuff, and it'd be over and over and over again. And they're like, well, I don't want to do that. I want to get in there and punch somebody. Well, no. You have to do the basics well first before I even consider putting you in there. And some trainers just throw you straight in, and that's great. And I lost a lot of fighters who went up the road because they would put you straight in there and put the gloves on there, and away you go. I was more of a teacher rather than, I suppose, a traditional boxing trainer. But just through experience, I just know through the experience of being involved for 40 years, it's the person, especially at a novice level, it's whoever does the basics the best. And you see a lot of the fights, you go to the amateur fights, and they come out there, and the ones who just go for it, you watch it, the ones who win the fight are the ones who just maybe just have the hands up, chin down, elbows in, and just concentrate on the straight punches, the jab and the straight right. Sometimes that is enough just to win at a novice level. It's amazing. But if anyone's out there, prospective boxer, that's my advice. Basics over and over and over and over again. All right, especially your footwork, because it doesn't matter how hard you punch or how good your technique with your hands are, means nothing if your footwork's no good. So practice your footwork every single day and before every single session. All right, where are we? Sorry, guys, I've got right off track there. All right, Monk, George should go straight into sales after boxing. He could sell sand to the Saudis. Yeah, he's the ultimate salesman, Monk. I love it. I love the way he gets into them. The only thing I don't like sometimes, he almost talks in that American slang with a lot of the stuff. But he's talking to Americans that use that slang, so maybe he's just talking the same languages they use. But I love the way George goes about it outside the ring, and especially with this fight with Jordan, a tough sell to sell that fight. But he's done a great job. I think we will see if they sell it out or not. All right, Drew, was Tim's insistence to go back into the fire against Murtazaliev after getting dropped earlier a case of poor ring IQ, impulse, or being seriously hurt and not properly cognizant? Probably a bit of all that, mate. I don't think he's got a poor ring IQ. I think he's actually got a good ring IQ. And we saw that earlier. I mean, you saw the fights against, say, Jeff Horn. He totally dismantled Jeff Horn by using ring IQ. You know, he stood back. You know, he got his distance, his range, brought Jeff Horn onto his punches and just made him pay. That was a really easy fight for Tszyu. And early in his career, he made a lot. Look, obviously his level has gone up dramatically since those early fights. But I just remember the way he made Jeff Horn look very, very ordinary. But I think it was a case of maybe the moment getting caught up with him. Maybe he got dropped and he thought his natural instinct was just to go harder at Murtazaliev, which made it easier for Murtazaliev to drop him again. In reality, he should have been grabbing, holding, backing off and trying to see out the round and being cautious. I couldn't believe after the second round he actually came out aggressive and went after Murtazaliev. That, I suppose, could actually be defined as poor ring IQ when you think about it, but just not great decision-making at the time. His corner should have said, Tim, please, for the love of God, for the next 2 rounds, do not engage. Just be on the back foot, get on your jab, stay at a distance, and try and get back into the fight. But he went out there and went after Murtazaliev and then got dropped with exactly the same punches he got dropped with the first time, and it was lights out. So maybe it was a combination of getting hurt. Maybe he couldn't believe what was going on. Maybe he was just, you know, he had the canaries going around his head, and it was just instinct that kicked in, and his instinct was to go forward. Lots of different things, mate. But either way, I think we can all agree that whatever he did was the wrong thing to do. He should have been on his bike and just doing whatever it took to survive the next 2 rounds, and then maybe from the 5th round onwards, maybe try and pick it up a little bit. But he did exactly the thing he shouldn't have done, and that was go out there and go after Murtazaliev, who just sat back and said, all right, well, cop this, and hit him with exactly the same punches he got him first with. All right, Damien. A bit late to the party tonight. Did you hear Jim Lantley's calling the big 3-card fight in New York Times Square? Can't wait for this. Yeah, we did, Damien. We saw it. We discussed it a little bit earlier in the show, mate. So great to see, mate, for sure. No worries, Shadow Boxer. All right, Kim. Saran is going to duck Opatire and fight Jack after his mandatory. Is that Zerdo we're talking about? Saran. I'm not... what is that? Jack... Oh, Badu Jack. Okay. He's going to duck Opatire. Oh, hang on. What do you got there? Jack. Are you talking about Zerdo Ramirez there, Kim, or whoever? But it doesn't matter who they are, mate. I'm sure they're all ducking Opatire. Why would you want to fight him? They're all talking about fighting each other, and no one's really talking about fighting Jai. Oh, okay. So it's Zerdo. Okay. So Zerdo is going to duck Opatire and fight Jack after his mandatory. Will he, though, Kim? Or maybe he waits for David Benavides. I don't know. I know Badu Jack. Now, I did read something about him the other day. Now, he is obviously the WBC champion. Now, was he going to fight Rozicki? I don't know. So at the moment, so Jai's got the IBF belt, Zerdo's got the WBA and WBO belt, and Badu Jack's got the WBC. Geez, they wouldn't, would they, Kim? Surely not. Unless they said that maybe Zerdo fights Badu Jack and Jai fights David Benavides if Benavides doesn't get the Bivol or Better Be fight. Maybe, and then the 2 winners fight. Who knows? But, yeah, look, mate, I wouldn't be that keen to jump in the ring with Jai Opatire either if I was him. Put it that way. Because he's a beast, he's Jai Opatire. All right, Damien. All right, we've got a few minutes to go there, guys. If you've got anything else to put in the chat, go for it. What's that, Damien the Sweet? I'll go back and listen to the whole thing when this finishes. Yeah, no worries, mate. Yeah, well, hopefully this time I'll remember to actually upload it. When I got the message, I was like, wow, did I don't remember actually uploading it last week. It was a busy week, so I do apologise, but I'll remember this week. All right, Monk. No, in a way, his dad would completely agree with you about the basics and repetition. Even today, his dad said during his camp, in a way, would jab for 40 minutes just to warm up. Yep. So I'm saying, mate, I think these days people just overcomplicate things. And this is where you look at the good teachers in the sport, okay? You look at, and you said there, a great example, no, in a way, his dad. Now, you look at someone like a Freddie Roach. Now, I've seen Freddie Roach up close and personal. I've seen Robert Garcia up close and personal. There's no cameras or anything around. Just been in the gym and watched them work. And that's what they do. It's repetition. It's doing the basics better than your opponent. You've got to remember, these guys are super talented, okay? So they've got that natural thing about them, but when they do those basics over and over and over again, that's what I suppose puts the cherry on top. And I've seen Freddie Roach, same thing. I can't remember, might have been with Kodo, I reckon. Who was he working with as well? I can't remember his name, but jabbing, doing jabbing drills. That was it. I've even had guys when I was a trainer, just spars. That's all I do is jab. It's just jabbing spars. All right, moving, hands up. Because the other thing too, I sort of mentioned it earlier, when people talking about advice, if you are a trainer as well, and you've got young kids, or not just kids, but inexperienced fighters that are sparring, take the thread of it all away. And I can't remember who it was before said about the flinching, and I didn't even think about it till now. Another great way to look at it with the flinching thing is when they get in there and spar for the first time, just say, all right, boys, jabs only. So they know exactly what's coming at them. It's just a straight left. So they can really concentrate on the blocking, the head movement, a little bit of movement without the fear of copying a left hook or a right hand or an uppercut or whatever. And that makes them nervous, which then encourages the flinching. So that's what I encourage. Just go to jabs. I used to do jabs only, then it might be straight punches only for novices. And you weren't actually allowed to do the uppercuts and hooks and that sort of stuff until you're at a more advanced level. Keep it basic, and that's probably a great example too, as I said, about with the flinching. Just go to jabs only or straight punches only, so you're not worrying about the big power punches coming at you and getting nailed. You can practice the things that you've been working with your trainer, put in the practice without fear of if you make a mistake, you're going to get tagged. Okay, so another bit of advice there for you. But good point there, Monk. Yep, and you will find a lot of those great fighters. Again, we'll just do repetition over and over and over again. And how good is Inoue's jab? It's like a sledgehammer. Seen the Maloney's do it as well. Just jabs. And Angelo Hyder, big on a jab. Straight jab. Okay? I think in this day and age, too many people have seen Floyd Mayweather with his routines. And I almost laugh when I see those pad guys in there. And the pad guy does more work than the fighter. The fighter just is doing this. And the guy afterwards more puffed out than the fighter. You know, they're doing all the work and all these stupid routines. I can tell you, as an ex-fighter myself, that you don't need to do that sort of stuff. You really don't. You really don't, because it's not going to help you in the ring. To be able to do a flash 3-minute or 1 minute, whatever they are, pad routine does not help you in the ring. It might be good for a bit of a warm-up, but again, even if it is a warm-up, it creates bad habits. And you've got to train the way you want to fight. So don't do all that shit if that's not what you're going to do when you get in there for real, because again, it creates bad habits. If you want to do pad routines, get in there with your trainer and do a 1-2, slip the left, throw the right. Basic stuff. Weave under the left, weave under the right, throw a 3-punch combination, something like that. I'm telling you. Basics. And another thing we can blame Floyd Mayweather for this generation of pad holders. All right, Kim, we've got just a couple of more comments before we finish up. Jack won't fight CBS because Zerdo and Abbataya are the big money fights. Yeah, well, it makes sense. Jack, of course, hasn't been overly active in the last few years, but I think if it's either one of those guys, it's got to be Zerdo or Abbataya, doesn't it? It's got to fight one of them for a big money fight. Maybe it might be, Turki Al-Sheikh will enter into the equation, and it might be Jai and Badu Jack on a Riyadh card. Who knows? Still with Kim, Opatai KO's Benavides, who walks forward? Yeah, I think he would too, Kim. I think Benavides is custom made for Jai. I'd love to see that fight, though. I really would. All right, we'll have just one or two more comments there. Buzz Lightbeer. Parker versus Bacoli was always a lose-lose for Parker. He looked great, but so much backlash. Yeah, not from this end, no, I don't reckon, Buzz. I just think it was not Joseph Parker's fault. He was just grateful to get a fight. And I don't think, even though Bacoli was in horrible shape, I don't think you can give any backlash to Joseph Parker. I think you can give, well, in hindsight, you can probably give a pat on the back to Martin Bacoli for jumping in there, but also on the other hand, mate, what were you thinking? It's great that you've jumped in for a 600 US payday, 600,000 US payday, but mate, you've just literally, set yourself back a long way. You'll probably lose his ranking because of it. I don't think he'll lose his spot on those Riyadh cards because Turki Al-Sheikh loves him, but yeah, in hindsight, not a great idea, but I certainly don't point any of the blame at Joseph Parker, mate. I think he was just, as I said, grateful to get the fight. No word just yet, Damien. And what's that, Dennis? Great chat. Thoroughly enjoyable. No worries at all, mate. Well, on that comment, we're going to call it a night. It's 1 minute to 9. But I think we've been pretty hard at it all session. Thanks to everyone that's tuned in for the episode. Thanks again to everyone that's listened after the fact on Spotify. Make sure you tune in every morning for Walking Boxing, 7 days a week. Well, I was going to say 365 days a year. Not quite, but almost. And it's always great to get the feedback, questions, comments, things sent to me. It is very much appreciated. So, guys, have a great week, and we'll catch you next Monday night.